What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 129 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always, my very good friend and co-host, Miss Sierra Plus Ultra.
Hi, Pete.
Yo, we got a good one, Sierra. No rumors, no speculation, just maybe a little speculation, but just some cold hard Pokemon facts. Because guess what? It's a holiday. Happy Pokemon Day.
Happy Pokemon Day.
Happy Pokemon Day to all who
Happy
celebrate.
Pokemon Day. Yeah.
So crazy to me that there's as much to talk about as there is, considering this was a 12-minute Pokemon Presents. Not a ton of information about
Yeah.
what they showed off, but what they showed off, such a big deal that I'm excited to pick it apart. I think rather than go through all the announcements, because I think we can all agree, some a bit more interesting than others. We're gonna start with the hype and we'll work our way down from there. How's that sound?
Exactly. Let's just cut out the fat. We're gonna get right to it, everyone.
Exactly,
No waiting.
exactly. So here's where we're gonna kick things off, right? The headline of this Pokemon Presents. We got a new game revealed. It is Pokemon Legends or ZA Legends, Legends ZA. I guess I gotta figure out
One of
which
them,
one it is, but
Zaza.
I'm gonna guess it's Legends ZA because we had Legends Arceus. So
Yeah.
that's what we'll say. But obviously really cool to see the Legends branding return, but
Yes.
quite a bit that we do know about it that points to the idea that it is potentially a somewhat different beast than what we got with Legends Arceus. So,
Absolutely.
no, go ahead.
And there was a lot of speculation about another Legends game. There's speculation about a Johto game. This is neither of the things that were floating around the internet. Like, no one could have fucking called this one. It's crazy.
No. And it does make me wonder if were those all so far off because they were total bullshit? Or is it possible that some version of some of the other things that we've heard about is still cooking in the background? I'm
Yeah.
interested in that. But I I'm, before we get into the nitty-gritty, very, very excited to see a new Legends game, right? Like
Mhm.
Arceus was just such a breath of fresh air. We were big fans of it here. And I'm just really excited to see that just, 2 years later, right? We're getting confirmation of another one of those games. Whereas we like you just said with the Let's Go games, right? Like we've talked about those so many times and about how it is kind of weird that they came and went and they were a success, but we never followed up on those. We never got a follow up to those. So I didn't really assume we were gonna get another Legends game. So I definitely wouldn't have predicted this, and I'm very, very happy to I guess be proven wrong. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm happy. I'm happy that this is
Yeah.
happening. That's where
Absolutely.
I'm at.
No, totally. Because think about how much lore or unexplored lore has been left of Pokemon history. So this
Totally.
means that they're going to go back in the backlog of Pokemon content and just, tell new stories with all the things they've built over the years, which is awesome. Like, diehard Pokemon fans are really into, all the Pokemon Go stories, stuff about, old ruins and, so we're gonna really get a chance to, have those parts of the Pokemon universe actually, come to life instead of just typical rinse and repeat, 8 gyms, Pokemon League, done.
And I feel that formula, it's interesting to see how there are things about it that I think have aged poorly in terms of how it tells story. Cause I think when you think about back in the day, the first couple generations, right? Like the story was sparse and it left a lot of room for you to role play and kind of fill in gaps. Whereas I kind of think since X and Y, funnily enough, there has been that kind of push towards more of this game has a script and it has
Mhm.
characters that are supporting characters and there's an arc and there's this and that. And you saw that prior to those games, right? Like Black and White obviously have a pretty significant story. But I feel like even then it felt like it had more room to breathe. Whereas you saw in X and Y and Sun and Moon, there's a lot of that Go to the next exclamation point so you can see a cutscene. Go to this next spot, meet up with these kids, they'll talk to you. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's something that like I just feel like it doesn't work in either direction. Like I feel like those at additions have not really made the stories feel deeper or more fleshed out or like more well realized, but it has kind of gotten in the way of the ability for it to be more sparse and you to project more things. And that was something I really liked about Arceus was like because it was more focused in like, the gameplay stuff is just like you're going out and exploring. And then like the characters that you meet and interact with are mostly limited to that one town. That town felt so much more alive and so much more like a
Right.
place that was growing and changing rather than like going to the next town and like talking to a bunch of very static NPCs that like don't feel like living people. They feel like
Yeah.
signs, like
Mhm.
and I'm excited by that, right? Like the idea that like, you know, that more narrow focus like does give you space to talk about lore and things like that. And like the things we learned about like the history of, you know, of the region in Arceus and,
Mhm.
like, just, like, things, "Oh, like, this is what old Pokeballs looked like." Just, like, little things like that is, like it's
Yeah.
really cool. It makes the world feel deeper and more lived in, and, like, that is something that I think the games have struggled to maintain over time because they don't really have the space to dedicate to story, but, like, it feels like they feel like they need to check that box that, like, our games now in this era must have a script or whatever, and it's like, "Okay, but like, to what end?" Whereas, like, in Arceus, I did feel like a connection to the team that I was on and the supporting characters that are there on the journey with you and all that. Like, it felt
Yeah.
so much, it's like, I don't feel any kind of connection to, like, any of the kids that you're friends with in X and Y, right?
Mm,
Like,
oh my, and there's so many of them.
all 5 of them that just, like, constantly are talking at you, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know any of these kids' names. I don't feel like they have
Like
super
the
distinct
kids next door.
personalities, like,
Yeah.
whereas, like, I did kinda feel that way in Arceus, where it's like, okay, like, it and again, it's not like this super deep narrative, but it was, like, deep enough where it, like in the same way that, like, Concierge, right, had characters that had arcs and, like, it's like, okay, like, this feels so much more well realized, and
Yeah.
I'm excited by the prospect of them getting to explore something like that again and, teach us more about, like, the Kalos region this time around, right, and, like, learn more about, like, how did, like, Lumiose come to be and, like, all those kinds of things I think are interesting questions, and it's exciting to think that they could maybe explore them in a slightly different way.
Totally. I feel like I did feel, like, a little miffed, like, when the direct started and I saw the unknown, I was like, "Oh, Johto, here we go. Johto Legends, like, Johto remake,
Such a
something."
bummer.
And it was such a like, I feel like I got juked, but, like, I just really thought they would've done Johto next for Legends because if they wanted to stay in that, like, Edo period type, like
So
they
much of
would've
Johto's
gone.
history is, like, in that kind of vein.
Yeah. So, like, I was really interested in, like, playing a game that, like, acts out that storyline, that part of Pokemon history. Maybe not yet. Maybe the
I hope it
time will
comes one
come.
day.
I hope so.
Because it's like you said, like, there's so much, like, with the, like, um, what is it? The burn tower and everything, like, all that stuff that, like,
Yes.
happened, like, in like what seems like an Edo inspired period, right?
Yeah.
Or at least that like, that more old traditional kind of it feels like antiquity, right? Whereas like
Yeah.
Lumiose, it feels more like it's like maybe like turn of the century, right? Like it's like,
Yeah, like the 20s or like the 10 like
yeah,
the early like, they when it opened the trailer opened up, there was, like, a case file, and the music was, like, kinda jazzy, and I was like, "Okay, like, Great Depression era Pokemon,
yeah.
hello?"
It has
Eh
that kind of energy to it a
yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
At first, I was scared, I thought it was another Detective Pikachu game, I was like, "Alright, again?
Oh.
Already? Again?"
Detective Pikachu 3 starring Ryan Reynolds.
But, yeah, it's interesting that they're jumping, like, time periods, and then we're getting to see, like, this, like, the city be built up from, like, scratch.
Yeah.
Um, when it first opened up on, like, the blueprint of the city, I was like and it like, the way that the camera was panning around, it looked like it might have been, like, referencing, like, an a multiplayer world, like, because there's so many trainers, like, people battling. I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh my
yeah.
god, are we getting an MMO?"
I did think it was, like, really funny because I was waiting because basically, like, you have that scene where they're showing you, like, the redacted, like, city planning,
Yeah,
like, drawings and everything, and then it kinda, like, transitions to that, like, 3D, like, it's all, like, like CAD key software or something, right?
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like I was like, "Oh, okay." So I was like, "Is this gonna be like a cinematic where it shows the drawing to the wireframe to then like a full shot of the city?" And when it didn't do that, I was like, "Okay." So like, did they show us it this way so they didn't actually have to show us anything? Because it's like,
right?
because there's a lot of conversation, and we'll jump around a little bit, but like, there's a lot of conversation going on about okay, this game's in 2025. Does that mean it's a Switch launch title? Is it Switch 2 launch title? Is it this? Is it
Yeah.
that? And like we'll talk about that more in a little bit, but, one of the comments we got in our Discord, was from one of our Patreon producers, Asobi, who said, "If it's a Switch 2 title, they probably can't show it yet, or otherwise they'd be having to show, quote, unquote, 'last gen gameplay,' and that would be pretty bad for marketing," which I think is
Yeah,
an
I
interesting.
saw yeah, I saw people being like, very valid arguments about, like, the fact that they didn't have more to show.
Yeah.
I if the game is coming out that soon, I really think that would've been cool, but that's a really excellent point. Like, it's not gonna be accurate to the actual experience this early
You don't have
on
anything to gain
anyway.
from showing it to us right now, because it's like, because
Yeah.
another comment we got here, this one comes from Trendy Brendy, who's, big Pokemon fan. And, Brendy said, "No gameplay is rough, IMO." And they said 2025, so not early, quote unquote. So I don't think it's in a January release window like the last game. I hope it's the holiday title so that the next generation titles, like the next generation of the next proper Pokemon generation,
Right.
um, are in 2026. And I have a lot of feelings about that because I don't know that this isn't the next Pokemon generation. We'll talk about that in a
I
minute.
can't think about 2026 right
I know. It's like
now.
it's way sooner than I want it to be. It messes me up a little bit. But, um, I am actually happy that they don't have anything to really show us because to me, I'm like, I understand feeling like, damn, kind of a bummer to not have gameplay and, like, not have anything to really chew on, but, like, based on what Brendy said here, right, if they said 2025, not early 2025, so I'm thinking, like, maybe this is a fall release of next year, right? Something like that.
Right.
If it is, that's actually a lot more development time, right? That's like the
Yeah.
entirety of this year and almost the entirety of next year that can get put into it. And we're already, now 2 years removed from Arceus. So that would be 4 years of active development on it, which is quite a bit more time than they've had the last couple go arounds, right?
Oh, yeah. What was
Um
Arceus or Arceus? Do you remember?
So I guess it depends a bit because there was, they came off Ultra Sun and Moon, right? And then it was Sword and Shield in 2018, I think.
2019.
Was that 19? Okay. So then, yeah. So then
Yeah.
2 years later, we had Arceus. Or no, if that was
Oh, maybe it
19,
was 2018. Hold on.
figure that out for me because it's either 18 to 22 or 19 to 22. And they had two games made in that time, right? So
It was 2019. Okay.
2019. Like I would say it's probably in the neighborhood of 3 years. But that's also 2 titles being made simultaneously. So it's, like, kinda hard to say, like, where that cutoff is because it's like they had Sword and Shield, and then they had the DLC for that, and then
Right.
I'm guessing that the team that worked on Sword and Shield probably switched off immediately to Scarlet and Violet, and then the team that did the DLC unless
I
it's
know,
the other
right?
way. Because if it's that would make sense. Sword Shield team, other team does DLC, Sword and Shield team does Arceus, DLC team does Scarlet Violet. Maybe it's that way. It's tough.
Maybe.
They're not super transparent about it, right? It's not like a company like, I don't know, like Arcane, right? Where they have two studios and one's in Texas and one's in France, and we know exactly what
Yeah.
is working on. It's like
Right.
I'm imagining there's probably some crossover among those teams too, like from some of the higher ups. Cause that was the thing I remember we talked about when Scarlet and Violet came out, where it was like a really significant percentage of the team is the same people. So they made both of these games at the same time or like
Yeah, right.
truncated
Yeah,
very.
that was a conversation that was being had, like, that, these games were being developed at the same time
And
because like,
that's
the
why,
route
like, I remember when Scarlet and Violet got revealed, we were like, "Oh, yeah, like, clearly, like, they couldn't learn from anything from Arceus because they were made in a vacuum," right? So it's like, it won't have any of those updates that we got used to in Arceus or that we liked in Arceus, and it's like, why wouldn't you
Yeah,
include the, free roaming on the map and throwing the ball, like, all those kinds of things, and it's like, well,
no.
they didn't know if anybody liked him yet, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's an interesting one, for sure. But, in terms of, like, what else we know about it, there are a few details that we are, like, firm on about what, like, the deal with the setting is. So, Nintendo ended up confirming on Twitter after the, presentation that, the game will entirely take place within Lumio City. I'm sorry, within Lumio City. My question is,
Oh,
what does that mean? Because did Arceus totally take place within that town? Because if that's the case,
no.
right. So it's like, what does that mean? Is that I'm in the city and then I go out into the field like we did in Arceus and I'm going in catching Pokemon and finding resources and then bringing those back to build up the city?
Yeah, like, is it
Or
the hub
right,
or
exactly. Is it like a hub world or is it like straight up everything takes place in the city and you're gradually like building the city up over time? Because they did show like on that final map, there were like I think 4 or 5 different like little circle icons around the map. It could be a thing like that where maybe like you're like fighting wild Pokemon and like clearing out a space so that the city can get built up, or I don't know, but it's an interesting question of like, what exactly does that mean? Right?
Yeah, I know. Like, is this city gonna be that big? Is there that much, like, content in that world?
I
I
mean,
don't
it was
know.
huge in the original game, right? Like, it was a big
Right.
fucking city for the time. So, like, I guess you could do that. I don't think that's like inherently problematic. The idea of like having a story that just takes place in one city, right? Like, um,
Yeah. I'm just interested to see how they make that feel like a complete game, like,
mhm.
and there's enough to explore, especially if it's just a bunch of buildings or a city being built.
Yeah, it's like and I think to me, I'm inclined to say that I think it's probably not that like, you probably are going out into the field to get
Yeah, I
resources.
hope
'Cause it's
so.
like the whole thing is about building a city, right? So, like, how are
Yeah.
you hanging out there if there's nothing there yet? You know? It's like,
That was, like, what I've really come to love about newer Pokemon games. If anything else, the exploration's definitely there, and I've gotten really used to that. So, for all of it to just be in like, Paris, France, or whatever, I'm like, "Hmm,
yeah, it just to
make it a
me,
little
that
more."
seems off. It doesn't seem like
Yeah.
that's what they would do, right?
Yeah.
Um, so another thing that I think is interesting is they were very clear to say that it was releasing simultaneously worldwide in 2025, right? So even though the title feels like it's one game, like it's Pokemon Legends Z to A, it's like I guess Z and A are technically two different versions, or maybe it's going to be Z to A and A to like something like that. I don't know, but like
Oh.
they confirmed basically that it's multiple titles, right? And like I think that's interesting because I think it speaks to the fact that the Legends model was successful, right? And they want to see if they can replicate the success they've had with the quote unquote mainline entries or whatever, right? By saying like, okay, like we'll put out two versions and you'll get some people that double dip and you'll like push those sales higher than they even were, right? For a single title.
Yeah.
As like I guess that's kind of been the conventional wisdom with Pokemon, right?
Right.
My question is like, what does that look like in practice? Is it as simple as what we've come to expect in the past, where it's just like there's version exclusives and that's it? But like, if that's the case, I think some of the more like quote unquote traditional features that we've come to expect with Pokemon, like were not in Arceus. So is this,
Right.
and there's like a lot, I think there's a lot to unpack there because I think there's a debate kind of going on whether like what this is going to look like, right? Like is this a quote unquote main game? Is it a spin-off? whatever, right? And
Right.
we have I have a tweet that I pulled from Joe Merrick, who you may know as the webmaster of Cerebi.com, which is, like the premier Pokemon website on the web. And he posted a screenshot of what looks like from the Japanese presentation. And he specifically said, he's like, here, I'm pulling it up. He said, "Oh, and I'm going to just say this right now, and I do not want to have to repeat it for the next 5 years. Pokemon Legends ZA is officially classed as a main series title."
Huh.
So that to me is an interesting question, right? So it's like, it's a main series title. It's not a spinoff. There's two versions. What does that mean for battling, trading, and the competitive scene? Because obviously Arceus didn't play nice with that stuff, right? Like there's almost no trainer battles in the whole game, right? I don't remember if there was the ability to trade. There may have been, but I don't remember that.
I don't think
And
so.
and there wasn't online battles, right? So there was like no scene around it. And you had to wait until those Pokemon came to Scarlet and Violet before you could use them in competitive play.
I completely missed that it was, like, gonna be 2 versions. When they said "release simultaneously worldwide," I thought they meant, like, the game is gonna be available on the same day globally, worldwide. So, what that says to me is
I guess
that,
it could be that though. Yeah,
y
you could be right there.
yeah, 'cause he said Legends
Hmm.
EA
Yeah,
classed as a main series title singular. I mean, it would be interesting if it was 2,
I
and if
think
it
you're right.
was 2
I think I misinterpreted that.
no, that's I mean, but, like, we don't actually know for sure. And, the thing is, if they do either way, if it's a mainline, if it's 2 versions, either way, I feel like they're thinking about introducing an online component to this one. Again, because of the heavy emphasis on battling that I saw in the trailer. I think that
Yeah,
this
they
is
did
gonna be
show
the
like
one that
multiple
has
Pokemon battles happening in the city.
yeah, I think this is gonna be the one that has, like, an actual online component similar to what we're used to, in current day Pokemon. Like, I think it's a surefire like, I would bet on it for sure.
Okay. I I'm looking this up, and it definitely seems it definitely seems like I misinterpreted that, and they're definitely
No,
not
that's
the
fine. I
original.
mean,
So, I appreciate you checking me on that.
the naming convention is interesting to me. Why not just Z? Why not just A? Why is it Za?
And I was wondering, like,
Za.
they showed the unknown, like, in the
Yeah.
trailer, and, the 2 messages didn't say anything, like, like, the first one said Pokemon Presents, but, like, a bunch of the letters were, like, flipped. It was, like, an anagram of Pokemon Presents, and then the last one was, like, "See you," or "UC," I guess it could be, but I think it's probably, like,
Yeah.
"See ya." Um, but, like, the unknown did have, like, there was, like, that unknown, like, mini game in Arceus of, like, finding them all, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe that's like a reference to that. Like, obviously the A to Z, the alphabet with them and everything. Like, is that, I don't know, is that like a lore clue or something? Are we pointing to
Yeah,
something
right.
like that?
I
I don't
never
know.
understood Unknown to have, like, a I mean, I'm not as well read on Pokemon lore as a lot of people. I know, like, surface level, like, tip of the iceberg shit, but I only understood them to have a role, like, a strong role in, like, Gen 2. I
Yeah.
didn't know if they tied in really with Zygarde or anything.
I don't think they have historically. Um,
Right.
but I guess like one of the things that's so interesting, right, is that like I don't remember if it's Gen 5. I think it's Gen 5. It's Gen 4
Yeah.
or 5 that confirmed the idea that Pokemon takes place in a multiverse, which is why you can
Mm,
have, uh, like, different mechanics in different versions of Kanto, right, or whatever. It's like this idea that, like, each Pokemon cartridge is, like, its own universe, and that, like y
okay.
so it's like,
When in doubt, tell your
just change
audience
the
that you
rules.
have a multiverse.
Exactly, yeah,
And
it's like,
that
"Oh,
it's
no."
just built-in plot armor to do whatever you want.
Like, think about it, right? Like, in Arceus, uh, there's Pokemon in that region that are not there in, you know, the proper Gen 4 games, right? Like,
Right.
but they're there, right? And it's like, I don't know, like, why is that way? It's like, oh, because reasons.
Mm.
Yeah,
'Cause you
exactly.
can.
So that's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I guess it could. I don't know. I guess it could go either way with some of that stuff. Because
Yeah,
it's like the fact that the starters are all different is like, well, that's obviously very different, right? Like, or it was an RCS. I'm assuming it will be different again in this generation,
right.
but I don't know. So here's the other thing I wanted to pull on from that side of things. Yeah, this was something that another write in from Trendy Brendy. He said, I think it's very cool that we're continuing the Legends titles, but as a competitive fan who will continue to play Scarlet and Violet until the next generation arrives, I'm honestly more excited about 2024 being an off year. I will gladly play an additional year of VGC on Scarlet and Violet if it means the Generation 10 games run at a consistent frame rate. I just really hope that they make ZA the holiday 2025 title.
Mm,
I agree. I would very much love to see it be closer to 2 years away than 1. And I would very much like to see, an even longer amount of time between Generation 9 and Generation 10. My question is, though, really like what we were just talking about, right? Like, I'm not totally sure that there won't be a competitive angle to this game and that they won't make it more traditional in those ways. But I don't know, because they also did, like, make changes to the battle system in Legends Arceus, and it's like, are they gonna wanna keep those changes and have like the Legends games be their own thing? Or is the idea that it's like quote unquote a mainline game, right? And it's not a spin-off. Like, are they gonna wanna rein some of those changes in and like make the battle system more traditional so that you can push a competitive season based around it and you can treat it like the next main game rather than a stopgap between the next main game?
right. Well, and we haven't touched on this yet, but we did see that this game will bring back Mega Evolution,
Let's
and I yeah, let's fucking
go!
go! I woo!
New
As
Megas!
as a person who loves Digimon, I remember when I first saw that, like, they revealed that would be a thing for the meta in Pokemon games, and I was like, "Oh, so fucking all those kids who said that it was stupid that they, like, evolved and changed back. Eat my fucking shorts. It's
Well,
sick.
well, well.
Well, well, well." Um So, I think that my hope is that instead of getting, like, rapid strike and strong style or whatever, like, we're just like, "Alright, mega evolutions are back. Like, here's like, these ones can still do it, and now all of these can also do it." And, like, then that's all the more reason for there to be, like, an actual multiplayer, like, online battling system, and they flesh it out even more. I don't know, like, I'm very excited at the possibility. I think that I
Me
hope
too.
they don't try to reinvent the wheel. I hope they're like, just like Mega Evolution's back, and it's better than ever, and we're just gonna focus on that. If they find a way to fuck that up, I'm gonna be so mad. How do you mess that up? They get bigger and badder, they get more guns, they get more armor, and then they change back to normal guys after, like,
So,
foolproof.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I think there's, like, maybe 5 megas that I don't think are sick. So I'm right there with
Yeah,
you. Like, most of them are
yeah.
really cool. And, I mean, what better chance for them to give us yet a 3rd, Charizard evolution, right? Well, the Mega Charizard Z
Oh,
now.
I
Gonna
didn't
have
think
to
about that.
they're gonna have to do it because 'cause
Oh my god, what if
they're
they
sick
give
ones.
them they give them a mega evolution where they all turn into green guys like Zygarde. Lizard guys.
I like a lizard guy.
I love lizards. I was thinking about lizards today.
I'm gonna need it. Why? Just in
I want
general?
I might own one day, I don't know. I like the ones that have, uh, salam the ones that
Salamanders
ha
are cool.
they got big heads. They
Yeah.
got big heads and big eyes, but their body is regular, and I love
I'll tell
that.
you what, as I've been a lifelong reptile guy, highly recommend. So,
Yeah.
go for it. Become a lizard
One
person.
day, one
Be a
day.
lizard guy. So, here's the other question I've got for you before we move on from ZA. So, do you think that this game is gonna be the game where we're like, "Hey, they did it. They took enough time. It doesn't run like shit. It looks nice. It feels like what you would expect from any other major video game franchise that has a new release where it's good and quality and we don't have a bunch of caveats because we have this seemingly longer development cycle. I don't know how much longer it actually is, but I guess I guess I'm worried because I liked Legends Arceus a lot. I think it's one of the best Pokemon games. It still had problems. It still didn't look very good. It still had a kind of drabness to it, right? And like, uh, I don't know. I guess just like it doesn't feel as alive as the world in something like Tears of the Kingdom, right? Like it doesn't
Mhm.
have that same sense of like this is a living, breathing world. It still feels a little bit like this is a video game, right? And that's great, but I think that's what a lot of people are looking for is for it to kind of level up and take that next step. I don't know if this is enough time, you know?
I don't think it's enough time either, but I'm gonna say something crazy. I think it would be weird if it didn't look like shit.
All I want is a Pokemon game that looks as nice as Pokemon Snap 2, Sierra. That's all I want.
No, I know, and I was just gonna say, like, the precedent visually has been set by Bandai Namco, and if in my ideal world, they get Bandai Namco involved, but
That would be so
they're
nice.
not they're not fucking going to, and, like, the thing is, I mean, they Monolith Soft was involved on Scarlet and Violet, but what happened there? What did they do there? Because it didn't look good, so what are
They
we doing?
need they need them to be involved from the beginning. It's like, let's
Yeah. I think I think bullying is working. Bullying works. I think bullying is working on the Pokemon Company,
I
like you guys
mean,
said, like,
it
a
worked on
couple
the
weeks
Sonic the Hedgehog movie, right? It's like sometimes it does.
like y'all said a couple weeks back, like, I think it's actually the haters are getting to them, and
A
I
little
think
bit, just a little bit.
so if they were wise without imposing, crunch and burnout on their existing staff, they would hire exponentially more people to make it look really good. They could keep that same window, it could still look awesome, but that's if they care. I am trying not I'm from now on, Pokemon Company, I am the bar is down here. It was here. The bar is down here, and I'm just gonna be pleasantly surprised if anything runs properly. So my bare minimum expectations for this game is that they bring the fucking catching mechanic back. I really think that should if it's not gonna be in the mainline games, it should live in Legends games.
They better.
Um,
They fucking better.
I
That was
know.
the best part of that game. Like, it
It
just
would
was
just be
so
ridiculous.
fun.
So good. So yeah, they should keep that, and then hopefully, the game looks good. But like I said, I just it's gonna be weird if they don't look fucking awful. That's just I've come to expect it now. Differently say, "This game looks too good."
It's like, I don't know, I don't
It
buy
looks
it. I don't
too
think it's gonna come out like this. It's gonna be like when I saw the first Switch trailer and I'm like, "There's no way it's that fast,"
Yeah,
right?
I
Like, it's
know.
like it doesn't just work like that. God,
Um,
what I wouldn't give for us to see it and be like, "I don't know," and then it comes out and we're like, "Never mind, it's the second coming of
no, I
Jesus."
know, and then
That's
we've
all I
we've
want.
been sorry, like, I know they Game Freak was never meant to be a 3D Pokemon game development company.
Yeah,
They
but, like,
had to
fuck that.
but,
They've
like,
been doing it for how long now? It's
when
like
we I know, that long, and then when we look at what games have come out on the Switch, like, you can't blame the hardware.
no,
Everything like, Xenoblade Bayonetta and, Zelda, they
Mario,
they all run great.
and they look great.
There's no excuse. If they wanna stake their claim on fucking just being Pokemon the Pokemon Company and just putting out whatever they want, they could probably still make a killing, but, like, I feel like this time something has to change.
I
'Cause, I mean
hope I
yeah.
hope that, like, the swell that happened around Pal World, right? And, like, the fact that you had, like, an indie studio coming out and presenting something that felt like an alternative, at least on some level. I hope that that motivates them to, like, just step it up a little bit,
I
right? Of, like,
know.
we don't wanna get, you know, Stardew Valley, right? We don't want to end up in a situation where there's like indie versions of our franchise coming out that are better and that are connecting with people, and it's like obviously the Pokemon company like has such an advantage in terms of like, you know, nostalgia and like built-in recognition and all that stuff. That's like a really hard thing to fight against, but like I mean, Power World was breaking Steam records and all kinds of stuff, right? So it's like they have to see that there's a hunger for them to experiment a little bit more and try other things, and that like it doesn't always have to just be the same thing every time. There's nothing wrong with giving us more of the same thing, but also, it's like we're 30 years into this franchise already, right? Like
Yeah,
let's do
gotta give
something
us
else.
more credit. Gotta give the audience more credit.
And I think
But
it's frustrating to be this far into its life cycle and that like the newest games in the series are the worst in terms of like
oh, yeah.
performance and execution. Like that's it's a bad fucking look to just be like, we're just gonna keep cashing in on the fact that the name means something because eventually it won't.
Yeah, for sure. But and again, is it a Pokemon game if it doesn't look like shit?
They didn't used to. When it was pixel art, they were beautiful. They used to be beautiful. Yeah, they used to be so beautiful. Oh God. All right. Last talking point on this one before we get into a question, and then we're gonna move on to a couple more announcements that came out of this thing. Then the next question here, right, is and I'll just jump into this question from the question block from Navalis. Will it be a Switch 2 launch title, or will it release on both the old and new console?
They said it was gonna be out on multiple systems.
Yeah,
So,
they specifically said it would be out on Nintendo Switch systems.
yeah.
Which to me, I would say it's definitely on the old console. It'll run better on the new one. I think will probably be how they frame that.
Yeah. I do not think it will be a launch title, unfortunately, but I can wait.
Yeah.
Don't make it a launch title.
Well, it's like, Chewy commented in the Discord and said, reminder that Pokemon put out a 3DS game in 2017. Right. So it's like they are not usually ones to like lead the charge on new hardware, right? Like they want to get the maximum install base and the maximum amount of sales out of a new Pokemon game as possible. So I would bet that this one and maybe even the next one are both cross generation and that it would be, upwards of 2026, 2027, maybe even longer before we get the first Pokemon game that is only on the successor to the Nintendo Switch.
Right.
That's what we saw before, right? So
Mhm. Yeah.
same thing with the 3DS too, right? Like it was like Black and White 2 came out on regular DS when the 3DS was out, and X and Y
Right.
came, a couple years later. So last question we got here. This one comes from one of our Patreon producers, Snackago, who wrote in and said, I want to take you guys back to roughly September 2019. The very first question I asked had to do with the imminent release of Pokemon Sword and Shield. To paraphrase, I basically said, Pokemon Sword and Shield, oh yeah, this is when Pokemon gets dark. With the reveal of Pokemon Legends ZA, is that vision for a shift in tone for the narrative finally coming? Is this the time where Pokemon grows up? This concept art, I can't lie, sells me on a dream.
Did someone just draw that today?
Yeah, it's like
No way.
so he attached this bit of art that I don't know the origin of.
I mean, it looks like some sort of, like, mega god Zygarde form, but,
So
like,
that dude in the back is Zygarde. I forget what it's
oh,
called, but it's
maybe
like
it's
it's like the
photoshopped.
100% Zygarde form. Like if you
That's
get all the
crazy,
pieces,
that's so
that's like his
anime.
full version. So like
He looks like a Gundam. Okay, so this is like oh, I it kinda looks like it's photoshopped.
yeah, to
I
me,
don't
this
know.
doesn't look like it's authentic concept art. So that's and maybe that's not what he's saying. Maybe he's just saying this art.
Pokemon Elden Ring. But, like,
Yeah.
this concept is like an old world city, and it's creepy. I don't did you feel that Legends had a dark tone to it? Because I it's, like, in the middle. I don't
Yeah.
think so.
I think that's what I was gonna say is like I don't think it'll have like a dark tone. I don't think it's gonna be like this is the grown-up Pokemon, but I felt like Arceus was already that kind of in terms of like a half step towards that because I agree with you that like I don't think it has like a dark tone, but I like it definitely felt like it was less concerned with not being scary, if that makes sense. Because like
Yeah,
I think of like when we were younger, right? Like we'll use Gen 1 as an example. Like Viridian Forest, the Rock Tunnel, right? Like some of those environments, they're like presented as scary, right? Like they have scary music. It's like dark and it has this element of like you're in a dark, scary place and this is dangerous, right? Whereas like the modern games really go out of their way to kind of smooth anything like that over. And like, even if it is like I can't remember if I'm thinking of I think I'm thinking of Sun and Moon, where there's, like, that ghost house that you go into. Sun
right.
it's Sun and Moon, right, that I'm thinking of?
Yeah, I believe so. It's
Yeah.
like a ghost, like a haunted abandoned city, and there's, like, a ghost
Yeah. Yeah.
thing.
Okay, so I think I'm thinking of the right thing. So, like, that's a great
Yeah,
example of, like, that's a thing that I think in earlier Pokemon games, like, would have been portrayed as, like, more sinister, and I feel like they kind of it's, like, played off, like, a little more whimsical. Like, it's like, "Oh,
right.
there's ghosts here, it's scary," and then it's like, they're kinda just, like, pushing shit around, and it's like, "Oh, no." Whereas, like, in Lavender Town in the first game, like, there are people that are straight up, like, possessed by ghosts that attack you, right?
Yeah,
So,
I bet
like
if you reimagine those games as, like, Scarlet Violet or Legends Arc like, where you could see the characters talking in 3D up close to you, if you could see their, like, expressions, it would probably have be much darker than what you got, which was the 2D overworld.
I mean, and think of that, right? Like in Lavender Town, like it's a plot point that Pokemon die,
Mhm.
right? And that like death exists and is permanent in this world, and that like Cubone's mother was killed by Team Rocket. Like that's not a story beat that they would put in a Pokemon game now. They just wouldn't, you know, because they it's got this like squeaky clean, like Disney family friendly image now, and it used to be a little bit more rough around the edges, and I feel
Yeah.
like Arceus kinda tapped back into that a little bit where it's like, these Pokemon are straight up trying to kill you,
Yeah.
and, like, everyone's afraid of Pokemon because 'cause they're monsters. It's like,
Yeah, and then
"Oh,
the
okay."
shit with Volo.
Yeah, like, that
Yeah,
stuff feels more adult, right? And adult, more teenager, but, like, same whatever, right? Like,
totally.
it's
But we can give kids a little more credit, like, they can handle that
Yes.
shit.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can. To me, that was a big part of what I thought was appealing about Pokemon when I was a kid, was that,
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been as into Pokemon if it was the presentation of how it is in, like, Sun and Moon, where it's like, you
Mhm.
have a fucking chaperone, you have, like, a teacher with you. It's like, that's fucking lame. Like, what was cool about Pokemon to me when I was a kid was this sense of, like, "Oh, like, I'm in this dangerous situation, and it's me and my team of Pokemon surviving, right? And it's like you felt like you're getting over on your own. And it's like because you had a strong team or because you planned and you brought the right items. Whereas like now it's like, you go through a cave and there's an NPC who heals you at the end and at the beginning
Yeah.
and in the middle. And it's like
Right.
there's no sense of danger anymore. And I think
Mhm.
Arceus did kind of bring that back in of like Pokemon are wild and trying to survive out here is crazy and like you're a really tough motherfucker if you can catch Pokemon. It's like
Yeah.
I think
Oh
that, like, you
god.
need a little more of that.
So now if now the premise is, Pokemon and humans live together in harmony and they're battling together, then what's the big bad or what's the threat? What's the you know?
I don't know. It's
I'm
interesting.
sure there's gonna be something. I can be patient and wait and see, but that's gonna be really interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways you could go with it, frankly, and
I
I guess
know.
that there's gonna be the question of, like, is there gonna be some kind of, like, time travel element again, too, you
Yeah,
know?
right. Can this fucking poor kid go home?
Is it a different kid in a different shirt, and that shirt is teasing the next region? Because that tweet you
We're
sent me
just
earlier,
we're just zonking more kids from the future, just
I'm
bringing them back.
galaxy
They're
brain
just
down
going
on that now. We're socking more kids from the
we're
future.
just zonking more kids. It's a kid zonking game. Everyone get ready.
All right, so that's gonna wrap it up for our Pokemon ZA Legends ZA. Sorry, this name's really silly. I'm gonna get there at one point, I promise.
Za.
Za, Pokemon Za, pizza,
We
Pokemon.
need a Pokemon P and Pokemon
Pokemon
Za.
Pizza is coming out next year. I'm real excited for it. We're real excited for it. If you guys want to write in with your thoughts or questions about the game, just like everybody else did in our question block segment today, thank you everybody who participated. Guess what? You can do that in a bunch of ways, all of which you can find over at flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find all the links to all the places we are all over the web, including our Patreon. And let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of February. For the last time, they are Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobi, Snackago, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and also Boobies, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You're all the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want to go check out those shows, if you want to write into the show, if you want to become a Patreon supporter and get all kinds of cool perks and goodies, however you want to get involved or show your support to the community, you can head over to flipscreen.games and get involved. However you choose to get involved. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the show. All right, Sierra. We talked about that for exactly as long as I wanted to. So now we're going to talk about the only other announcement that you and I agreed was fire, and the rest of them, hey, you play those mobile games, I'm happy for you. Otherwise, we're not talking about them. Because what we're going to talk
Yep,
about is the mobile game that we're excited about, which is Pokemon trading card game Pocket. This
wild.
is, I
Pokemon
think,
Snap, but not the
but not.
Marvel as in Marvel Snap, not not Pokemon Snap like the photo game, but like
But
Marvel Snap, the Pokemon.
it's serving that a little bit in a way that
Yeah,
I, like they talked about.
but the
Okay,
card art, like the way you can.
like the interaction and like
Yes.
yeah, like that shit is so cool. So okay. All right, let's rewind. Top level view. Pokemon trading card game Pocket. We've got a you know digital version of the TCG. It is a evolution of the TCG based on my understanding, right? Like it is. They talked about how this was a quote specifically from Creatures CEO and president Yuji Kitano, who Creatures is the team that makes the Pokemon trading card game, and they are collaborating with DNA, who makes a lot of mobile games, but with Pokemon is most known for collaborating with them on the Pokemon Masters EX game. So it's like a three-way collaboration between those two teams and the Pokemon Company. And Yuji from Creatures said that and this is a direct quote. He said, "What's more, we've developed a new streamlined game rules based on our existing battle system so you can enjoy a quick battle during the free moments in your day." So,
Mm.
this I thought was interesting because I don't know if that is saying, "Hey, this this version of the Pokemon TCG Pocket is overall modified and simplified so that you can have quick games, or is quick play a mode that's like that, and then there's a more traditional mode that is like the full rule set." I'm not really sure, but they did say specifically that like their goal was to like they're working really hard on making a version that will appeal to longtime fans of the TCG as well as players that have never been exposed to it. And something I thought was interesting was like when they were showing off the card art, they had a bunch of cards that were like old cards that I recognized, and I'm many, many years removed from collecting the TCG. But like I saw some like Gen 1 through 3 or whatever cards that I recognize the art from. And I know some of them have been reprinted and whatever. So, I don't know if that's just a me being ignorant about which cards have been reprinted and that those
Mhm.
are legal cards anyway, or if it's like we're going to try to bring cards from across the whole history in and modernize them and create a new meta. I'm not totally clear on what it is between those two, but um the like quick play thing that they were talking about immediately made me think of Marvel Snap, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like that's
Yeah.
very interesting to me.
Yeah, because I almost got into Marvel Snap, but I couldn't commit. It was still, like, despite its very, like, snappy quick play, which I really enjoyed, and, like, the way that the game is structured, still couldn't get into it, like, I still couldn't make time, but, I really enjoyed it, and I, like, um, I think it makes more sense if it's separate modes, because some people might be like, "No, I'm used to the regular way. I'm gonna do that." But I would hate to be the team working on separating out those separate competitive rules and,
Yeah.
then do you, make different versions of the same cards?
I
What are
don't
you
know.
doing?
Yeah,
That must be so complicated.
it's interesting to me because I guess the way you could do it is, like, I guess you could do something akin to, there's, like, different, like, modes of gameplay for, like, Magic the Gathering, right? Like, it's like
Right.
there's, like, single play where I have, I think it's 50 cards. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 50 or 60.
I don't know.
Um, and it's one-on-one, and we both have 20 hit points, and I gotta take yours down, you gotta take mine down. But then there's
Yeah.
also, like, Commander, which is, like, a different rule set, but
Crazy.
cards
Yes.
still work, right? And it's like you have to build the deck with different rules, and you have to, you know, then there's like two-headed giant, which is like a different rule set slightly, and then there's like planes chase, and there's like all these different game
Yeah.
modes, but like the cards still work the same in whatever game mode. It's just like there's different rules about like how you're allowed to use them or interact with them. I could see it being something like that, where maybe like the quick play is like, you have less health, or you have like, because there's like a prize system in the Pokemon card game, if I remember correctly. Been a really long time since I played.
Yes, yeah, it's 6 prized cards, and
So maybe
ideally,
it's
you want
free.
to take all of them
So
before.
maybe
Yeah,
quick play is like half the amount of prize cards, right? Or like maybe
maybe.
they simplify the way that energy works or something like that, right? Or the way that your bench works or something like that. And they try to boil it down so that it is like a little bit easier to kind of just like pick up and do a quick play. And then like as you learn mechanics, like maybe the ranked system is like the full rules or whatever or something like that, right?
Yeah,
I could see something like that. I don't know. Like I'm not intimately familiar enough with what the mechanics are at this point for me to like pitch like how you could do it differently, but
totally.
it's something like that I feel like potentially makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, something that exists independently of, the ever-changing competitive meta, which is, they'll introduce, VMAXing and different things like that, different mechanics, um, every, year or 2. So, I haven't played in a while. I was really into it in, 2016 to 2018, and I desperately fell off. Tried to get back on in, 2021. Or maybe 2020, I don't know. I was like, "Damn, this shit is expensive." So,
Everybody was
I
getting into it, right?
didn't.
Like during lockdown.
Yes, and then I was like, I guess this isn't meant to be." So, I still buy a pack and, maybe, an ATB every now and then just to, hopefully get, something really cool and
Little
shiny,
serotonin. I
but
get it.
it's still fun to open this shit, you know?
Oh yeah.
But I
So
couldn't tell
talk to
you
me about
the
that.
rules.
So like you still buy cards, you like the opening experience. That was something I thought was interesting about this, right? Was like they were showing uh I feel like they've got like a really good system for opening the cards where it's like you have to like swipe to rip it open and then you like swipe all the cards out. And I was like, "Oh, like that like
Yeah,
feels
that would be
cool." Like
really pleasing, yeah.
and then like you get and who knows how long this will last or if this is like forever or whatever, but they were saying like you'll get to open 2 packs a day at no cost. Like just from like logging in, like you'll have 2 packs that you can open every
That's
day,
pretty good.
which is
And I
good.
noticed
Yeah.
they depicted that kid, receiving notifications for packs at different times throughout his
Yeah.
day. The one being I thought he was on a date, and I was like, "You're gonna look at your phone right now, motherfucker."
I feel like that was definitely the implication, right? Like he's like there and
Yeah,
he's like, "Oh,
but then the voiceover was like, "Open the packs on the go when you're with your friends." I was like, "Okay, they're just friends. It's okay." I guess that's not too rude,
I
but,
guess. I don't know." Let me ask you this, Sierra. You're on a date. Your date pulls out their phone to open Pokemon cards. Is that like because I think like normally I'm
it
with
would
you
be
where I'm
like,
like,
"Yo,
I
let
think
me
that's an
look
L.
too."
Right? Like it's like I think normally I would be like, that's probably a faux pas, but like I feel like if you're like a fucking dork like us, I'd be like, oh, actually, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I haven't gone on a date with a Pokemon nerd yet. I definitely went on a date with a fellow nerd, but I guess I would if they took out their phone to be like, "Yo, yeah, I just got a new pack of cards. Hold on a second." I'd be like, "Yo, yeah, that's sick. What did you get? Show
You're
me."
like, I'm scooching over. What'd you get? What'd you
Let me
get?
see. Show
Anything good?
me.
You want to
Yeah,
trade?
right? Seriously.
But, like, that I thought was cool too, right? Like, they were, like, showing off, like, how the trading works and everything like that. Like, it just seems like it seems like a really, like, good seamless system, and I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, "How the fuck have they not done this yet?" Right? Like when Hearthstone popped off, like,
Valid.
10 fucking years ago,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Magic the Gathering Arena, like, came out, and now we got Marvel Snap. It's like, it seems kinda crazy that, like, with all the mobile games that they've put out over the years that, like, this is their first attempt at this, but
No, I know.
it looks
Is
really
that
good.
I thought that this entire time the app that you can play on desktop was available on mobile. Is it not?
I don't think it is. No. I think this is
What
the
a
first time that they've ever
fumble.
done I know, right? And that's crazy, isn't it? Like, it's like, why?
Ah,
I feel like this is gonna be a huge fucking success. Like,
yeah.
I feel like
I
unless
mean,
it
I'm excited about
sucks,
it.
I think it's gonna be a cash cow, right? Like,
And I yeah, and, like, well, that solves the for the short I mean, I don't know. People like owning physical media I mean, I still like owning physical media. So,
sure.
it doesn't
Especially
solve for
cards.
yeah, it doesn't solve, like, the physical shortage of cards. But competitively, if you're trying to build a deck, it solves for that, like, scarcity type problem
Yeah.
that, like, you might have if you're trying to build certain decks. I don't know.
Or, like,
Yeah.
if you're somebody who wants to play, but, like, doesn't wanna collect and doesn't wanna, like, have a bunch of shit in their house, right? Which is like,
Yep, I have the problem, right? I don't even have a lot of cards, and I got a lot of binders barely hanging on for their lives with
yeah,
the
and
weight of all these Pokemon cards.
it's just like I think the analog that I have, like, this is the thing I've talked about with one of my friends. We're both comic book collectors, right? And it's like we hit a point where it's like I can't own every comic that I've ever read. Like, it's
Mhm.
just too much, right? And it's like you got to get you. I think everybody hits a point where it's like, okay, I need to just have the stuff I want to have, not just the stuff I have. And it's like when you're collecting cards, there is that like completionist mindset of I want an entire set or I need a bunch of decks for variety. And if I want to get the
Right,
cards, I want to buy a bunch of boxes. And then it's like, are you the type of person that's going to go and sell all the extra cards that you have? Or are they going to sit in a pile in your room or whatever? Right. And it's like,
right.
I think a lot of people end up doing that shit where it's like, I was that way with like Magic the Gathering Arena, where it's like, I really like Magic the Gathering. I like playing Magic the Gathering, but I'm not a collector. And I don't see the friends that I play with that often now because I moved
Same.
away, and it's like we get together and play a couple times a year, but it's like I'm not playing Magic the way I used to. And that was an easy way for me to be able to be like, oh, I'm still invested. I'm still playing. I'm getting online. I'm ranking. I'm going on the ladder, right? Like I could see that for a lot of people, because I think the main reason I never got back into the TCG was because I didn't want to collect cards. And like I had friends that got into it in like 2016 and were like, buy a box, like let's get into it. And I was like, you guys are asking me to do crack, right? Like that's what you're asking me to do. This is an addiction I will never get over if I get back on
I
this
know,
train.
I
Whereas, like,
know.
for this, I think I could see myself being like, I'll log in every day and open a pack of cards and like make a deck and learn the fundamentals again and like see if I get into it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I think for me, this could be like a really great way for me to engage with the TCG again and like kind of dip my toe back into that world without being like, okay, great, I'm buying binders and opening boxes and spending hundreds of dollars on cards, which
Yeah,
I got enough hobbies. I collect enough shit. I don't need more shit, you know?
right.
But
Yeah.
I like the idea of playing the TCG again. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. And like they talked about, you brought up the immersive cards before. Like that's a neat thing. It's neat that they're like
I'm
trying
so
to,
excited for that.
yeah, it's really cool. Like it's like, uh, they showed you like clicking into a card and then being able to like explore like this wide kind of like canvas drawing of like the environment that is being, you're getting that tiny little sliver of it in the card, which I think is just
Yeah,
really cool and dynamic. It's like an interesting thing to be like, maybe even if you're not super into the game, like having this digital collection of like just cool Pokemon art is like, like I could see people getting into the collection aspect of it digitally and not having it be like a gross NFT thing or whatever, right? Like it's like
right,
you can
totally.
just have the fun of opening packs of cards or whatever.
Exactly. Something that they've done in contracting certain artists for card art, they'll ask them to do several cards. So when you put them together physically, they all make one image. So
Oh, I
I wonder
love
how that's
that.
gonna work for this.
That's cool.
Or like, yeah, like I'm really excited because, like, as an artist, like, that's something that I've always enjoyed, that, like, relationship of, like, really unique artists on the internet to Pokemon cards and Marvel Snap, they highlight a lot of really cool artists, and that's how I, came to know a couple that I now follow, personally, like Rose Besh, like, she's
Mhm.
amazing. So,
Yeah. They're
it's
really
gonna
good
be
about that with
awesome
Snap
for
of having, like, a series of cards done by an artist or whatever. Like, that's
yeah.
really nice. And, like, then there's, like, that incentive of, like, "Oh, I wanna collect all of the ones in this style so I can have a deck where they're all that variant or whatever." Like,
Yeah,
that shit's fun,
totally.
you know?
Mhm.
It's like combining the collectible card element with, like, the flex of, like, having that cool skin in Fortnite or whatever, right? Or Halo or whatever.
Yeah, but
Um,
cooler.
yeah, but cooler because it's Pokemon.
Mhm.
So, like, I'm into it. They said it's gonna come out this year. That's all we got. But, the release, like, page showed both Apple and Google Play, like, day 1, which I'm excited
Yeah,
about because
I got so excited because I thought they were gonna say available now. I was like, "Oh my god."
I
But, like,
know. But I
no,
was
it's
I was at
fine.
least glad that, like, if we have to wait, at least it's gonna come out on an Android day 1 because that happens so
Yes.
often, right? Where it's like, "Oh, this is a cool mobile game." That's only on Apple
I
for now. It's like,
fucking know. I can't believe developers are not designing for both
especially,
operating systems in this day
Android
and
is
age.
more ubiquitous now, isn't it? Like, I feel like more people are on Android than
Yeah,
Apple
because you have, like,
these days.
iPhones run on, like, Apple, and then you have, like, Google Pixel, Samsung, blah, 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 Motorola, they all
Yeah,
run on Android. So, what are we doing
weird,
here?
weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was one that, like, in a day that included a announcement of a new Legends game, I was like, "You know what? This is pretty sick. This is a pretty good announcement." These 2
I know.
anchored it really well for me, I think.
Yeah, I feel like the mobile game stuff is like, alright, a lot of people gonna be watching this. This is our chance to rope in anybody who might be on the fence about playing Pokemon Cafe
I
Remix.
love how, like, every one of them, there was like, "Here's a code if you wanna download you get a free thing, you get a little bonus guy. You want a bonus guy? Come play the game."
Yeah,
I can't believe how many
whatever.
thriving mobile products they have, though. Because, like, every one of these, I'm like, "Yeah, there's, like, 6 of these fucking games." It's like the 5th they were
There's
like,
so many now.
"Pokemon Masters EX is celebrating its 5th year," and I was like, "You gotta be kidding me. That's
Didn't
insane."
they say like 4.5, like
Oh, did
4.5?
they? 4.5
They're
years on the
stretched.
market.
I'm sorry, I don't care. The only reason I don't play Pokemon Cafe Remix more often is it's such like I'm not thinking about it. I'm just not, like, actively thinking about it. It's very cute though, and it's very fun until you run out of credits.
Yo, I got real annoyed with that game because I remember you were telling me that it was, like, fun, and I was like, "Oh, sweet, let me check it out." And I downloaded it, to play, like, on a trip or something, and then, like, I was gonna, like, play it on a plane, and then it was like, "Oh, you need to be online." I was like, "What? Why?
I
It's a
know,
puzzle
so
game. Why
annoying.
do I have to be online? Why
I
can't you just
know.
ping the
There's
server when I'm
no
done?"
yeah, just send my results to the leaderboard later, like
Seriously, like, what the fuck?
I know.
It's like, "Okay,
It's like
fine."
a baby iPad game, but it's so good.
I've had it on my
Um,
phone since then, and I've never every time I try to start it, I'm like, "Ah, there's no internet. Damn."
I know.
Oh, well.
Um, what else? Sleepy Raikou, very good, very cute.
Yeah, that's cool,
Um,
alright, you
I
know?
played Pokemon Sleep for a night, and when I saw that it fucking lit my phone on fire, I was like, no more,
Yeah.
no more."
I don't need Pokemon to tell me that I have bad sleep habits, I'm good.
And can I play it without sleeping? Is there like a mode where it just assumes you get 8
Ins
hours a night?
insomniac mode. Love the idea of you being like, "I need a sleepless version of Pokemons." I don't
I need
sleep
to
though.
sleep.
I just wanna, I need it to give me progress without chastising me for how
I
bad
don't
my
wanna
sleep
do
habits
any
are.
yeah, yeah. Assume I get sleep. I would be dead otherwise.
I don't know. I feel like you and I are living proof that that's not how that works. But
Wait, wait, how long can a human go without sleep before first auto suggestion, 264 hours.
that's pretty long.
Did the person die in that experiment? Alright, we gotta figure this
We'll figure
out
this out
off the
offline. We'll
record.
let you guys know next week whether or not they died.
I'll let y'all know in Discord.
Perfect. All right, gang. Well, thank you for joining us here on another episode of Nintendo Noise. If you want to write in with your thoughts on anything that was shown in the Pokemon Presents today, or if you want to suggest a topic for next week's show, remember you can hit us up and get involved in a bunch of other ways by heading over to flipscreen.games. You can support us on Patreon, get a bunch of perks and goodies. You can go check out some of our sister shows. You can write into the question block. You can come join the Discord, keep the conversation rolling between episodes, and chat with a bunch of other fun Pokemon fans in our community just like you. However you choose to get involved, we thank you so very much for tuning into another episode of Nintendo Noise. For the crew, I've been Pete. She's been Sierra. We'll see you next week.